I tell you what, they're coming thick and fast here, aren't they? You can tell that people are in a good mood on a Saturday evening. You can tell when someone's team's won.
Yeah, especially Arsenal.
Or they're doing bits.
Yeah, Arsenal are active when they win. Arsenal are active.
I'll give them a ring on a Saturday night now that we've won. Now that we're back in the mix, we'll give them a ring. Isn't that right, Mark?
Yeah, I'm delighted with the win, and I'm probably going to be accused of being a bit negative here, but I still see issues with Arsenal. I saw tonight against a very injury-ravaged Wolves team, and I think they laboured Arsenal for large parts, and I just worry about them in the coming week against Chelsea and City. And my biggest criticism or concern is, and I think it's happened last season, is the overuse of Bukayo Saka. The last 2-3 games, he's just looked on his feet, and that's been an issue at Arsenal for 3-4 years now. They haven't bought adequate cover for Saka. 3 years ago, they were linked with Rafinha. They didn't buy him. And I think they got the job done tonight, and I don't want to be negative and pessimistic, but I still would firmly put City as favourites because I think, we're all living in hope that they will drop points, but history shows you when it gets to this stage, City don't. They just churn out. Even today, in the Cup semi-final, second best for large parts, on their feet after extra time, they always find a way to win. And I think, I think it's important Arsenal make City work for it. But I would still firmly put City as favourites in the last 6 games.
Yeah, I think the majority of people will go along with exactly what you're saying, given history, given City are in the driving seat. But all you can do is take care of your own business. Regarding your point on Bukayo Saka, I agree with you, and I think that would probably be a position that you would hope to be addressed in the summer. Yeah. That and a finisher. I know that Jesus is a really good striker, but you want someone to be unbelievably clinical in those key moments for you, and someone that can give Bukayo a bit of a rest when needed.
Yeah, and I also think Arsenal, and this is the thing, now they're back in the...
Mark, where you go?
That's it. He was just about to...
He was going
to nail it, man. He was about to... He's back. Go on. Mark, we just had a bit of a cut-off there for a second. Go for it, mate.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say that the thing for Arsenal next season, which they're going to have to learn to handle, which will continue to be there and doing, is when you get to the Champions League knockout that week, when you then have key league games. As soon as I saw that Villa game sandwiched between knockout games, I just don't think Arsenal, unlike City yet, have the squad where they can play such key games in a short period of time. And this isn't mainly sound negative. I still, although you look on paper and go, well, they've got a squad of whatever, 20-something players, it's clear from how Arteta uses his team that he doesn't, I don't believe, have trust in a lot of those squad players.
It's like
the likes of Smith Rowe, the likes of Vieira, Nketiah, Nelson. So
even Partey this season, I know he's been injury prone, but even Partey, you could bring him into that. Couldn't you?
So, Mark, let me ask a question, though. So, you was looking at it in a sense where, Arsenal wasn't as scintillating as normal because, Wolves was able to kind of nullify them to a point. But don't you take it as a maturity in the sense where, especially the business end of the season, they're getting over the line because it's just about the results. Wouldn't you say off of that?
I do, but then I have to look at it on the other side of that was a Wolves team without any attacking threat today. No Cunha, no Neto. Juan only played 45 minutes. I'm not taking anything away. I think the true test for Arsenal to see if they've overcome this blip is this week, the coming week. That will test in Arsenal. I think on paper today it looked a tough game, but I think when you factor in the injuries and the various issues Wolves had, I think it was a kind game for Arsenal to have. I think the key will be, and Chelsea playing today might level itself up for Tuesday. I think what Arsenal have to do now is go to Tottenham next weekend and win, because until they can get over these big hurdles, they will be accused of it, of not being able to see it out. And I think that's what separates. And I think someone wrote about it, Carragher wrote about it in the press today, about Arteta needs to show that he can beat better, not this Pochettino, who everyone loved at Spurs and said, he's got really good young team. And I don't want to sound negative. Today with Arsenal, I've got a big ticket. I go home and away. I go to all the games. I just worry about them at this final stretch. People will say, City will be tired, but they didn't have Haaland today, and they find a way. They can bring Doku on, they can bring Grealish. Guardiola trusts his squad. The problem with Arteta is he's got a very good 11, and if they can churn out the same 11 week in, week out, what they don't have is the ability to really, in the few positions, I would say, you can swap Trossard for Martinelli, but Saka's on his feet, and I worry for Saka going into Euros because He's been played week in, week out. It's no good. He limps off every game. And I think Arsenal have been looking for cover in that position for 3-4 seasons now. So everyone goes on a striker. I think a right winger is paramount in the summer if they're and they need to build the squad to Arteta. When it comes to weeks like this next season and they're in the knockout of the Champions League, he actually, the only game he's truly rotated this season was against Luton. No disrespect. He picked a game where he was near uncertain that it would come off. And that, I think, is the big issue where I think he needs to trust in his squad. And I think there's a lot of players in that squad that Arteta doesn't fancy currently.
Yeah, do you know what? Listen, everything you're saying, to me, everything Mark said, I agree with him. I do think it's a little bit unfair in the point where because this is Arsenal who's made the Champions League. So they've made the Champions League this season. They've got further than they've got to for however many years. So I feel that it's still that they still have to learn. So they've learned from last season when they was way out in the head, playing all this football, and then they like to use this word, bottled it. Whereas this season now, you can see that they're a little bit more mature in the games. They're a bit more efficient. Add the Champions League into it, got out the group stages, got part of the quarterfinals, got to the semi-finals, now dealing with it. So they've been knocked out of this season. So, and he touched on it in the sense where, you know what, it was a Wolves team that wasn't at full strength, but also got to deal with Arsenal are dealing with emotional pressures, tiredness, being able to knocked out of a Champions League, dealing with more games. So, and this is me just sitting on the fence, not like I'm trying to give Arsenal props at all, but I think it works both ways. And I get it, he's an Arsenal supporter and he's looking at, you know what, Wolves wasn't at their best if they was, but it's just how football, you've got to beat what's in front of you, and that's what they did.
We saw what they did last year, Arsenal. And I think that's what our man was just referring to there. They do have a big week this week.
Yeah, massive.
They've got Chelsea and they've got Spurs. All right, sandwiched in the middle of that, City will be back in action against Brighton. If Arsenal go and win both of those games, that then tells us an awful amount about their progression from where they were last year to where they're at this year. They're putting it back on them.
Agreed.
They're putting the ball back in City's court and going, go on then, we ain't going away.
Agreed.
Go and win it. We're not going to give it you, go and win it.
Yeah, this week's exactly. It's massive.
And that's the big question that they've got to ask now. They've got to go and ask Manchester City to go and win the league. Rather than hand it to them, go and win it.
I don't think they beat Chelsea. I think they draw. I think they draw on Tuesday, and that's just my take on it. I see Chelsea, and I think Chelsea's got to have pride. That's what they're playing for, kind of at this, trying to get into Europe. I get that, but I think I see enough at Chelsea today, in the sense where
they just need to score.
Just need to score goals. That's where it is. And Chelsea's squad, they still was able to bring on Sterling, Modric when that's where whatever.
Modric came on. Sterling came on.
They've got a squad where, you know what, if it all does,
players, mate.
If it clicks, there are problems, So, but this is what the season is. So it's a big week for Arsenal.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.